Hi everyone, welcome back to Good Knits by SK here on YouTube. This is my space on the internet where I talk about all things knitting. I'm Sherry, and today I have a special episode. I want to go through my 2024 knitting goals and intentions. I say intentions because I realized even in my own yearly resolutions, I guess, that I don't like to set per se very specific measurable goals that I need to achieve. I like to set more of the mindset and shift that I want to have in the year so that I can really work towards longer term change and not just so much focus on a very specific number or achievement. So I wanted to bring that into my knitting. So expect that this video is not going to focus so much on the number of patterns I want to create or how many new designers I want to try, what new skill I want to learn. I think this is going to be much more around what knitting is going to bring to my life in 2024, how it complements it, how it adds to it, so that I can have more joy in the hobby and focus less on the technical and very specific details of this hobby. So intention number one, I want to learn to trust myself more, to know when to either stop a project completely or start over. And I have many examples of this in 2023. A good one being my Thea top, which you guys never really even saw. I think I mentioned it in my very first podcast episode, but that was a summer top that I had made, and I chose a size 3, which I'd already felt might be a bit too big for me. And as I was knitting it, it really felt like it was going to be oversized. And even when I tried it on, I wasn't happy with it, but I just kept going, assuming that in the end, when I added the trim, everything would work out and it would be fine. It wasn't. I got to the end, it was way too big. I had to frog the whole thing. In the end, I gave that yarn away because it was a knotted mess. And I didn't have a piece in the end. I took a couple pictures with it to show that it existed, but I didn't get the enjoyment of it. So I spent all this time and had nothing. Also, my Salty Days sweater. I went back and forth so much on the needle size. I talked myself out of going up in a needle. I started making it in the pattern suggested size, and I didn't get the oversized look that I wanted. And I knew that when I was done the body. And yes, it fit, but it wasn't exactly how I wanted it to be. And so would it have been smarter for me to just stop and start over? And yes, that would be a pain, but I would end up with something that made me happier, that I could actually enjoy in the end. And maybe the Salty Days isn't great there because I still really like the final piece and I will wear it, but it's not exactly what I wanted it to be. But I do have many projects from the last year where something just felt off, and whether that was at the very start or near the end, and I didn't trust myself and I didn't change, and therefore I didn't get what I really wanted. And another example would just be knowing when I shouldn't be carrying on with something. So I talked about this in the last episode with the Sunday socks. I essentially started making those because I had leftover yarn. I didn't really need socks, and they're not really warm enough to actually wear. I don't love the color. I don't enjoy the process of making them. So why do I keep going with this piece when I don't really want it in the end? And so I think for me, it's, I want knitting to be something that I enjoy, and I want to have pieces that I really love and feel proud of in the end. And if I'm not going to get that, then I shouldn't be spending my precious time on that specific project, or I should be knowing when to stop and start over so that I can actually enjoy it. So that's been a big one for me this year, and something that I really want to keep top of mind in 2024, because I don't want to carry through a lot of the mistakes and challenges that I had in 2023 that resulted in having a lot of pieces that I'm proud of them, but I don't love them, or I don't even have anything to show for with them. So yes, that is intention 1 and something that I am going to really try to focus on. Intention 2 is to focus more on completing things. I spent a lot of 2023 either barely knitting anything at the start of the year because I had a lot of life stuff going on, and then the second half of the year, especially when I started this podcast, I sort of swung the other way and tried to make up for it by working on a lot of different things. And I think, you know, at my worst, I had 9 or 10 different whips on the go. And so in the end, I wasn't really finishing anything in 2023. And when I look back at my Ravelry list and what I accomplished, it's primarily a lot of accessories, which is great, you know, especially the ones that I gifted. But I really like to make garments, and that's in the end what I want in my wardrobe. And I don't think I made a lot that I love this year for myself. And I also didn't make a lot in general. And if I really look at kind of the average time it was taking me to make a top, typically it was around at least 3 months. And I think the main cause of that is I just was trying to do too many projects at one time. So especially when it comes to garments, I would really like to just have, you know, one main project on the go so that I can really accomplish something and ideally finish it in about a month, because it's not so much that I want a higher quantity of pieces at the end and that's the primary goal, but I knit because I want that item in my life. If it takes me that many months to make it, then typically I'm past the season where I can wear it, and I start to lose steam and kind of interest in the piece in general because it's just taking me so long, and then I get bored and I want to cast on something else. So I don't want to do that anymore. I really, really want to be very focused and try to make sure that I am spending the right amount of time on pieces that, you know, I've obviously decided that I want in my wardrobe, and therefore I should want to finish them. Intention number 3 for me is making knitting more of a social activity. And this is actually something that I also said in 2023 for myself when I looked back at my goals for the year. In general, I wanted to be more social, but I specifically wanted to make knitting more of a social hobby. And I did start really well with that. I started to go to the knitting groups at the library here, and then we moved. And suddenly that library was 30 minutes away instead of a 10-minute bike ride away. And I just kept talking myself out of it, especially with the very bad weather here. The idea of biking 30 minutes at night didn't really appeal to me. But that's no excuse. And even if it's not the knitting library group, there's probably other activities that I could be participating in. I keep seeing ads for a group called Knit and Notes here, which is music combined with knitting. And yes, it seems a bit intimidating to go to some of those things alone, but I love music and I love knitting, and the idea of combining those two things, you know, once a month feels like it would be a good fit for me. So I really am putting it out there. I want to make this more of a social hobby. And I think that also goes for if any of you watching live in Amsterdam or the Netherlands in general and you would be up for a knitting date, feel free to send me a message, either an email or a DM on Instagram, because I would love to just have a knitting date over coffee or tea and get to know other people who share in this love of knitting. Knitting intention number 4, I really want to help others learn to knit or expand their skills and be a bit of a sounding board for that. So one of the things that I enjoy most about my work is I love to mentor people. You know, that's a big reason that I love being a manager, because I really like to help my team members grow and develop new skills and move up in their careers. And it's something that brings me a lot of energy personally. So this is something that I'd like to take into knitting. And I don't know exactly what that looks like right now. I think I need to give it more thought. But for example, one of my friends that I used to work with has recently taken up knitting while she's on her maternity leave. And she started to reach out to me with questions. You know, she was doing We Are Knitters kits at first, and now she's expanded into petite knit patterns, and she wants to make her first sweater. And so she's been asking me a lot of questions, like what kind of needle should she get, what kind of yarn, you know, how does she fix her decreases or increases in a hat. And I love having those conversations, and I like being able to share that knowledge, because when I started out, I didn't have that. I didn't have anybody other than my mom to talk to. And when I started knitting more garments, that was something that she wasn't really familiar with. So then I really just had YouTube to rely on, and you know, a handful of Instagram friends that I had started to make. A good example being Haley from Knit Weekend. When I was making my sweater number 1, I really leaned heavily on her to give me feedback on what went wrong in her sweater so I didn't make the same mistakes. And I think especially when you're new to a hobby, it can be so intimidating, even when you're experienced. For me, I wouldn't call myself the best knitter, but I still get completely stuck at certain parts of patterns. You read things, it sounds like gibberish, or you're wanting to buy, I don't know, new types of yarn, start doing color work, and you just have no idea where to start or how to do that. So this is an open invite to anybody watching this, that if you feel like you need help and you want somebody to be able to bounce ideas off of or ask questions to, I will be that person for you. Please feel free to message me. I don't mind at all. I really, really want this to be a bigger part of my life. And I don't know, maybe this year that's some sort of knit along for people's first sweaters. Like I said, I don't know exactly what this one looks like yet, but I figure if I put it out into the world, then it's something that I will carry through from, and I will find ways to incorporate that. Another reason this was on my list is when we did our team offsite a few weeks ago in Paris. We were talking about what kind of team activities we could do, because we have people in different offices and we want to start creating more of a bond across everyone. And actually everybody in my team had said they really wanted me to do a knitting workshop for them so that they could learn to knit. And it just so happens that one of my team members was my Secret Santa at that event, and she gave me a whole set of knitting needles. So I figure maybe that's a sign that I can use those needles to get people into the hobby, because a lot of people mentioned it was something that they had been interested in trying for a while, but they didn't know where to start, and they just never like pushed themselves to do it. So I think that's something that I'm going to take on as a first challenge. I have no idea how I'm going to run that online across different offices, but it's worth a shot, and it's a safe environment where I can fail and give it a try. So that is, I think, my first kind of mini actual goal of the year. And then for the rest, I will see how that develops, but expect me to keep putting out the offer that I am here if you need me. Then intention number 5 is really very personal. So I have talked before that I am a product manager for a digital SaaS company. And as a product manager, my job is to help build digital products that people actually need, want, that fulfills a problem or use case that they have, and that, you know, in the end, ideally also brings the business value that I'm working for. And I've really loved that job, but there's also, I think, as I've now turned 40 and I'm moving, you know, closer and closer to retirement age, I'm giving a lot of thought to what the next 20 plus years of my life look like, and how I can start to do something for myself that really fulfills a passion. And so I've been spending a lot of time this year thinking about how do I bring my love of knitting into my work. And I still don't know exactly what that looks like, but I have this idea for a digital product, whether that's an app or, you know, a web extension or a website. I don't know yet, but I feel like there's still a lot of things that all these digital tools out there like Ravelry or you know, different knitting apps, that they just don't fulfill, at least not for me. And so I know I have challenges and struggles when I'm working on those things, and they may be different from other people's. But I think where I would like to at least get to this year is starting to talk to more knitters about what challenges they face. So, you know, as a product manager, one of my big roles is to help do user research and really understand different types of users and how the, you know, digital products that I'm helping develop and create fulfill that need. So I am going to, I think, create a Google survey link, which I will put in the description here. And what I'd like to do is start collecting a list of people that I can reach out to do just like short mini interviews with. So I just really want to understand, like, what kind of digital tools are you using? What challenges do you face when picking patterns or yarns or trying to find different details on things? These are the kind of things that I want to start learning about so that I can work with a few of my friends who are developers and designers to see if we can start to create something that fulfills those needs. So I will add a Google Sheet link, I will add a Google survey link into the description. Also, if people comment and say that they're interested, I will comment back to you with that link. All information will be completely secure, so if you provide your email or any personal information from that Google survey, only I will have access to it, and it will only be used for the purpose of having those conversations to do a little bit of research. So like I said, I'm still not totally sure what will come of that, if I will be able to actually make something that people need, if that will turn into a viable business or side hustle in the future. But if I keep thinking about it, I feel like it's something that I need to try. And honestly, it's a big reason why I started this YouTube channel, so that I could find other like-minded people sharing in the same hobby and love of knitting, so that I would have an audience to reach out to and really understand how people are, you know, facing different challenges, getting started, or, you know, even when they're more advanced, what new problems does that bring? What do you struggle with? Because I think every single one of us, no matter how advanced we might be, still face challenges when it comes to knitting. And so if I can start to build something that people need, then everything will be worth it. So yeah, I think now it's all about how do I turn, you know, this channel that I have had more success with than I thought possible into kind of the next phase, which is really trying to turn this more into a longer term side hustle, probably not a career to replace my full-time job. I don't think that will ever be realistic, but if I could start to maybe in the future, you know, work less days at my real job and do more of this side project, if it, you know, does turn into something and become successful, then that would be the dream, wouldn't it? So that is all my intentions for 2024. I'm sure that I will think of more as time goes on, but I like to be short and sweet with those things every year, because then I find I am more likely to stick with something. I would love to know what your goals and intentions are for the year, what you plan to focus on, how you are going to get more out of this hobby for yourself. Please leave a comment below, give this video a like, and if you want to see more content from me in this next year, please subscribe. Also turn on the notifications so you know whenever I post a new video. I typically tend to post my podcast episodes on Monday evenings every 2 to 3 weeks, and I have some additional content that I post throughout the rest of the month. Thank you for spending time with me today. I wish you all the best in the new year and happy knitting.